Kawartha Lakes announces reopening of recreational facilities. Dan Kearns, local journalism initiative reporter for The Standard. Kawartha Lakes. The city of Kawartha Lakes has announced reopening its recreational facilities to the public. Effective July 26th, please be advised recreation facilities including fitness centers, swimming pools, Lindsay Recreation Complex Arena, select halls, and community centers are open with COVID safety protocols in place. Read a press release from the city. The local municipality brought back public skating to the Lindsay Recreation Complex on July 31st. All term memberships, which were extended during COVID-19 closure restrictions, are reactivated. As of July 26th, monthly ongoing memberships will also be reactivated, and monthly payments will resume, the press release explained. Recently, the Ontario government increased outdoor gathering limits to 100 people. This means larger gatherings at places like splash pads, fields, and parks are allowed. Please observe Ontario's roadmap to reopen protocols at all times, the press release cautioned. Pre-registration is required for fitness, swimming, and skating activities. To learn how to register, go online to www.kawarthalakes.ca.
Lindsay's Vince Dunn, selected by Seattle Kraken. Dan Kearns, local journalism initiative reporter for The Standard. Kawartha Lakes. Lindsay native and NHL defenseman Vince Dunn has been chosen to join the National Hockey League's NHL newest team, the Seattle Kraken. Dunn, who had been playing for the St. Louis Blues, was drafted by Kraken general manager Ron Francis in the expansion draft held on Wednesday, July 21st. He's a young defenseman. We think he's got some good offensive upside, so we're looking forward to getting a chance to work with Vince and help develop his game. Hopefully he can be a big part of our future, Mr. Francis said at a televised press conference following the expansion draft. The expansion draft involved the new Seattle franchise taking one player from each of 30 NHL teams. The Vegas Golden Knights were exempt from this process, as they were a recent expansion team. With any expansion draft, you know you're going to lose a good player. That's the cost for each team of having an additional club join the league. We would like to wish Vince Dunn the best of luck with the Seattle Kraken, Blues general manager Doug Armstrong said in a statement posted on the team's Twitter account.
Grief is hard work. Tina Y. Gerber, special to The Standard. Grief is defined as the emotion felt when experiencing the loss of a person or something important to us. Death does not discriminate. It touches the young and old, and often snatches from us those who are healthy and vibrant. Grief and stress are normal and natural reactions to any change that occurs in life. Although we acknowledge death as part of life, few of us spend time preparing for it. It is not simple, but complicated and messy, and seldom follows a linear or logical path. We will each experience grief in our own unique way and process these events differently. Grief is not just a response to death. Stress and stressful events come in a variety of ways and can be accompanied by grief. Many different issues can relate to grief. For example, the loss of a spouse or loved one, job loss, the diagnosis of a life-changing illness, marital separation or divorce, unplanned pregnancy, and the results of choices made around that, mortgage troubles, or for the foreclosure of your mortgage or loans. Changes at work, changes of sleeping patterns, changes of church activities, pet loss, and even the loss of trust, loss of safety, sexual assault, domestic violence, and the loss of control over your body are among the short list. At any moment, the reality of loss can take us to our knees, and mental and emotional darkness could engulf us. Then life's purpose becomes muddled. No joy or happiness, not to mention dreams, appear to have died. Loss requires us to choose between finding ourselves or letting things destroy you. There's no right way to grieve, no easy fix, but there are ways you can help yourself within the process. Despite the pain, the process of grieving is an important part of how we come to terms with this loss. Your friends, family, and community of believers can provide much-needed support during a time of loss. Reconnecting with yourself is a huge step towards the healing process, as grief can have a dissociative effect. There is no formula for getting to the place where people think you should be. Grief is such a personal thing and very complex. However, reducing your grief or stress can have a positive impact on your physical well-being. Many life events can bring with them elements of grief, but feeling a little loss is part of being found. Take your time. Don't be afraid to nurture yourself during grief, whether it is from a job loss, loss of mobility, or other freedoms, retirement, or death. If you are struggling to come to terms with your loss, you may find it helpful to speak to someone about your feelings. Many people find bereavement counseling helpful, and sometimes even psychological interventions are necessary. Revelation chapter 21, verse 4 is one of the most powerful verses that will comfort you in a time of loss. All change is scary, but eventually, you will find there is a hidden silver lining, and everything will fall into place.
The Good Life. I'm so pleased that people have been sharing their opinion about a recent editorial in the Standard. This is what a newspaper is about: freedom of speech and stimulating conversation around actual concerns people share in the population. Occasionally, an editorial may even put forth a conjecture on a possible solution for the dilemma of others, and we will always respect the right of people to say what's on their minds. There is no threat or fear from a difference of opinion. It is stimulating and healthy, and part of a mature society. Unfortunately, some people choose to express themselves in an unhealthy way by trying to attempt to circumvent open dialogue and genuine efforts to connect with the ideas their neighbors hold. Some try to portray the intentions of others with a different motive than what was expressly stated. During the stress and insecurity around COVID, many people's lives have felt more out of control. This is understandable, as it has been a bit of a whammy for all of us. Questions arise, for some about vaccinations, and an effort to offer solution-oriented thinking in this regard is healthy. A word of caution: when an opinion is shared which may disagree with the one you have, allow yourself the strength around civility of difference to gain new insights. It is the greatest thing our society enjoys. Our foreparents set out to create a nation with the protection of speech and the healthy recognition of difference and opinion. Never for the simple sake of being contrary. That's unhealthy conduct. But for sharing from sincerely held pre-established convictions about life, as was the case for those represented when we brought their question about barriers to vaccines to the forefront. It's important a healthy society never make its citizens feel insecure about asking questions, sharing opinions, and offering potential schools of thought for solution. Expressing an opinion with a view to solution, as inclusively as possible, is the very nature of freedom of speech and should always be encouraged. Even if the opinion is not what's expected, this is not fear-mongering, but rather dialogue. Engaging in this matter wards off hate speech. But being angry at the world is not freedom of speech. We need to hear others and share our perspective with a view toward understanding and acceptance. This honors people and teaches our children well. The real concern is the surge of reactionary behavior surfacing as a reflection of pandemic-related issues. People are struggling with personal insecurity, and some are acting out towards others instead of engaging with empathy to find solution. The Bible offers some helpful insights. In Ephesians 4:22-27, in the NIV version, it states, "You were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, the troubled way of doing things, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God, who moves in true righteousness and holiness, sobriety and equity. Therefore, each of you must, in order to clear this harm out, put off falsehood and speak truthfully to his neighbor, for we are all members of one body, socially. In your anger, do not sin. Do not have the intention to harm anyone deliberately. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, as unresolved issues tend to lock in anxiety. And do not give the devil a foothold, in this case hatred, prejudice, and attacks on free speech." We would be wise to heed the sound psychological instruction in this scripture. In the January-February issue of Reader's Digest, an article called Minority Report addressed mounting hate crime against people of Asian heritage. This resulted from destructive, reactive responses by perpetrators who oversimplified and painted a diverse people group with the same brush, particularly holding Chinese Canadians collectively responsible for COVID. You can read the article to see constructive solution. It's remarkable how open, healthy communication can solve so much. In our Canadian identity, it has never appeared we've had a serious problem with prejudice. My own loved ones are of Asian heritage. My sister-in-law works in government, and my daughter-in-law works in the pharmaceutical industry. Side note, with regards to the reference to medical personnel in a recent editorial, we affirm, at the Standard, we believe our medical personnel are doing their best to heal and save lives with their approach to healing, as we have asserted throughout this pandemic and gratefully before. The difference between a desire for freedom of expression and a desire for freedom of oppression comes down to whether a perspective is shared in an effort to find a way to bring differences to a more inclusive place, and different viewpoints are shared only to illustrate this need, or to point out difference to encourage separation. If that turns to an attempt to intimidate people, that's not in the realm of solution, and not what we sanction in Canada. Instead, discussing the issues with an understanding all people always have a right to retain their viewpoint deflates the idea of dominating another and focuses on interaction and value. Increased stress can stimulate people toward thinking and doing things they never would have. I choose to believe this acting out in prejudice is something which Canadians would normally be able to deal with in the quietness of their own soul. Read Psalm 4:4. It would never have reached through and grabbed our society until the complications of COVID. This is what we have always been about here at the Standard, the good news focus with accountability, as those who have read our paper can attest to. We have tried to offer a different but encouraging perspective, taking from the good things of our heritage and the issues of our present population to provide hope and a forward-looking approach to life.
The Standard Podcast was produced by Greenstream Studio for the Standard newspaper.